I used to think I was just being careful, double-checking everything, making sure nothing went wrong. But slowly, over time, my thoughts became my prison. I wasn't living. I was stuck inside my mind, replaying, analyzing, predicting, worrying, and I didn't know how to stop. I thought it was just part of being smart, but it was actually destroying my peace, my relationships, even my health. This is the story of how overthinking took control of my life, and the psychology behind why it happens, and how to begin healing. A quiet storm in the mind. I remember sitting in a cafe one afternoon. Sunlight was streaming through the window. People around me were laughing, talking, living, but I couldn't hear any of it. In my head, a war was going on. Why did I say that yesterday? That was so stupid. What if they think I'm weird now? Maybe I should text them and explain. No, that would make it worse. Why am I like this? My coffee got cold, my hands were shaking. It felt like the world was moving and I was frozen. That's the thing about overthinking. It's invisible from the outside, but inside, it's chaos. The roots of overthinking, psychology explains simply. Overthinking isn't just a bad habit. It's actually a psychological response to fear and uncertainty. Let's break it down. When your brain feels unsafe, emotionally or socially, it goes into protection mode. It tries to analyze everything. What do they mean by that? How can I avoid embarrassment again? What's the worst-case scenario? This is called rumination, replaying thoughts over and over. It's like your mind thinks thinking more will protect you, but instead it traps you. Psychologists say overthinking often comes from childhood criticism or high expectations, fear of failure or judgment, anxiety disorders, low self-worth. In my case, I grew up in a home where mistakes were not allowed. I got love when I was perfect, so my brain learned if I get everything right, I'll be safe. But perfection doesn't exist, and the more I tried to control everything in my mind, the more anxious the first became. Real-life consequences of overthinking. Overthinking isn't just mental. It affects your whole life. Sleep. I couldn't fall asleep. My brain wouldn't shut up. Decisions, even small choices, like what to wear or eat, felt overwhelming. Relationships. I misread texts, assumed the worst, apologized too much, or withdrew. Productivity. I spent more time thinking about doing things than actually doing them. And the worst part, I felt ashamed of it. No one could see how hard it was to live in my mind. The cycle that keeps you stuck. Overthinking becomes a loop. 1. You feel anxious. 2. You start thinking to solve the anxiety. 3. The thoughts create more anxiety. 4. You overthink more to fix it. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. And when I tried to stop, it felt impossible. Just stop thinking about it, people would say. But it's not that simple. Your brain gets used to the habit. Neuroscience calls it a mental groove. The more you think in circles, the deeper the groove becomes, like a record stuck on repeat. A breaking point. One day, it all came crashing down. I was supposed to meet a friend for dinner, but an hour before, I started spiraling. What if I say something wrong? What if they're tired of me always being anxious? What if I cancel and they get mad? I sat on my bed for 45 minutes, frozen. In the end, I texted, "Hey, sorry, something came up. Can we reschedule?" I lied. Again. And after that message, I just sat in the dark. That night, I realized something important. I wasn't living anymore. I was surviving inside a storm of my own thoughts, understanding the inner critic. Through therapy and reading, I learned something powerful. My overthinking wasn't random. It had a voice. A quiet, constant voice that whispered, "You're not good enough. You always mess things up. People don't actually like you." That voice was my inner critic. a psychological defense I developed in childhood to stay safe. But now, it was destroying my confidence. Every time I overthought something, it was my brain trying to protect me, but doing it in the wrong way. Real psychology tools that started to help. I knew I needed help, so I started learning real tools from psychology, not just positive thinking or motivational quotes, but deep, practical healing methods. And slowly, I discovered ways to calm the mind, recognize toxic thought patterns, separate myself from my thoughts, break the loop of rumination. How I retrained my brain using simple but powerful psychology tools. If you're someone who can't stop thinking, who replays conversations, worries about the future, or questions your every move, you're not crazy, you're not broken, and you're definitely not alone. You just learned to protect yourself in a way that no longer serves you. But healing is possible. I'll show you how I began to break free from the prison of my thoughts, and how you can, too. Stay with me. How I rewired my brain and stopped overthinking. I didn't want to just cope with my mind. I wanted to understand it, to heal it. So I turned to psychology, and what I found changed everything. Here's how I rewired my brain, step by step, and how you can, too. The first realization: you are not your thoughts. I used to believe every thought I had. If my mind said, they probably hate you, I believed it. If it said, you're going to fail, I believed that too. But therapy taught me something that changed my life. You are not your thoughts. Your brain is like a radio. It broadcasts hundreds of thoughts a day. Some helpful, some ridiculous. But you don't have to believe every station. In psychology, this is called cognitive diffusion. It means learning to observe your thoughts instead of being controlled by them. So I started a habit. The tool that helped me most: naming the thought. Every time my brain threw a scary thought at me, I stopped, took a breath, and said, my brain is having the thought that. For example, instead of thinking I'm not good enough, I said, my brain is having the thought that I'm not good enough. It sounds simple, but that one sentence gave me space. It reminded me that my thoughts are not facts. They're just habits, patterns, stories my mind is used to telling, and I can choose which ones to believe. Rewiring the brain: how new thoughts change everything. Our brains are shaped by neuroplasticity. That means the more you think a thought, the stronger it becomes. Like a trail in the forest, walk it enough and it becomes a road. So if you always think, I'll fail, they don't like me, I'll embarrass myself, your brain gets really good at thinking that way. But the good news is, you can create new paths. So I began practicing new thoughts even if they felt strange at first. Things like, I'm doing my best. It's okay to make mistakes. One awkward moment doesn't define me. At first, my brain resisted, but slowly, the new thoughts felt more real, more comfortable, more me. The 3-minute rule: stopping the spiral before it starts. One tool that helped me stop overthinking was the 3-minute rule. Here's how it works. Whenever you catch yourself spiraling, set a timer for 3 minutes. In that time, let your mind race freely, worrying, panic, ask questions. But when the timer ends, you stop, you take a deep breath, and you shift. This gives your mind what it wants: space to think, but also gives you control over when to stop. I used this almost every day. It made me feel powerful again, like, maybe I could learn to control this storm. One small act of bravery: facing the fear behind the thoughts. Overthinking is often fear in disguise. So I asked myself, what am I really afraid of? And the answer: rejection, failure, being misunderstood, looking foolish. So I gave myself a challenge. I would do one thing each week that scared me. Not huge things, just small acts of bravery. Saying my opinion in a group, texting someone without over-editing, leaving a message and not checking my phone every 2 minutes after. Each time, I realized the worst didn't happen. Even when I made a mistake, I survived it, and I felt free, rebuilding my self-worth. From the inside out, overthinking feeds on self-doubt, so I had to rebuild my self-worth from the inside. I began writing this in a journal every day. 3 things I did well today. 1 thing I'm proud of. 1 thing I'm learning. It was hard at first. My mind kept saying, "You're not doing enough." But I did it anyway, because I knew if I waited for my thoughts to feel better first, I'd be waiting forever. Healing had to come from action, not just overthinking more. Reconnecting with the present moment. Overthinking lives into places, the past and the future. Why did I say that? What if this happens? So I started practicing something simple but powerful, mindfulness. It's not just meditation. It's training your mind to come back to this moment. I practiced it while washing dishes, feeling the water, walking, noticing the air and sounds, eating slowly with presence. Even 5 minutes a day helped. It reminded me, this moment is all I can control, and that's enough. When to get help, and why it's not weakness. There was a point in my journey where I couldn't do it alone, and that's when I reached out to a therapist. And honestly, it was the best decision I ever made. Because sometimes your mind is too loud to hear your own wisdom. Sometimes you need someone trained to guide you through the fog. Therapy gave me tools, language, and space. Not to fix me, but to help me understand myself. And when you understand yourself, you stop being afraid of your own mind. A new way of living. Peace in the mind. I won't lie to you. I still have moments of overthinking. It's a part of me. But now, I don't fear my thoughts. I don't believe every scary story my brain tells me. I know how to come back to calm. I've built a life where my thoughts are just thoughts. Not threats, not prisons. And when the spiral begins, I say, I see you, but I'm in control now. That's healing. That's freedom. Emotional takeaway for the audience. If you're someone who overthinks everything, if your mind feels like a battlefield and you're tired of the war, please know this. You're not broken. You're not weak. You just learned to survive in a world that demanded perfection. But now, you can unlearn it. You can train your brain to trust, to relax, to live again. Start small. Start today. Because you deserve peace. Not just in your life, but in your mind.